Attention on deck. Welcome to the Warships Podcast with your hosts, Kaelord, Kami Samurai, and Vanacera.
Hello and welcome to episode 86 of the Warships Podcast. Today, Radar X joins our normal podcast crew to give us the wrap-up from the King of the Seas Supremacy and the finals broadcast last weekend, which our very own Kami Samurai commentated. But first, Kami has an important announcement to make, I believe. Right, Kami?
I do. It's good. It's a kind of a bittersweet announcement. I will be leaving the podcast and I will be leaving my friends here, but for a good reason. I will actually be going to Austin to work for Wargaming as a World of Warships product specialist. I'm very excited about it. I think it's a great opportunity that has been presented, and I can't pass it up. But the podcast is something that Kaelord and I and Vanessa have been doing for years. Don't think the podcast is going anywhere. Kaelord does a great job. Vanessa does a great job. But yeah, I will be moving to Austin in a couple weeks, actually, and I'll be starting as a product specialist for World of Warships, and I'm thoroughly excited. Yeah,
we'll definitely be sorry to see you go, Kami, but we of course wish you the best at your new job, and not to mention I'm going to get to see you on a regular basis here in Austin, which I'm kind of excited about as well. Radar, I guess, what were your thoughts about hiring somebody from the podcast, and was that something that you were appreciative of, or kind of how did all that work out?
I mean, when we were interviewing Kami, we didn't hold the podcast against him. We brought him in. Yeah, I know. I love you guys. It was definitely very exciting to bring Kami on. It's very unusual to hire someone that already from the community, that you already have a background with, a familiarity with, and in general, it was I was very excited to hear about it.
Yeah, for sure. We're sorry to see him go, but I think that he will fit in with you guys really, really well. I know that a lot of the people there are excited that he actually got to meet a lot of them last weekend while he was broadcasting, right, Kami?
I did. I got to meet a few, and some weren't there, of course, but I'm excited to get to work with them and share laughs and all the things that are going to happen, and it's going to be a great experience, and I'm sure in the future I'll be able to come on as a guest at some point and be able to share some experiences. So I kind of look forward to that, and to be honest with you, I look forward to being a listener. I listen to the cast after we get it done, but I was there recording it. But I kind of look forward to hearing the topics that you guys will cover and things like that, where I just get to sit down and listen to you guys. I would say 45 minutes, but typically it's more like an hour and a half. But I'm all excited about being on the other side of the fence, I guess.
Well, that's good to hear too. But moving on a little bit, Kami, could you give us a bit of a breakdown about the KOTS finals that you got to commentate on, and I guess in particular the finals match with because there were some pretty crazy things that happened in the OPG ZR match.
Yeah, first a shout out to all the teams, PSV, 07, OPG, and ZR. They all played very well. The third place match is the one I commentated, and PSV took that home 3-1. Pretty convincingly. 07 had one game where they brought out their triple destroyer strat, and PSV looked a little bit lost, but for the most part, PSV was in control for that series. But yeah, the finals match, ZR took the first two games pretty handily, and then the third game they decided they were going to try. Competitive wise, sometimes we call it the mean comp, where they don't bring a destroyer and they just bring a bunch of cruisers and battleships. And it was actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I was surprised with what they brought. But OPG wrestled that one back. And then game 4, OPG won pretty handily. So, we went to that deciding game 5, which was really exciting to see. And I think that's kind of what we wanted to see in both series. Unfortunately, the first series, PSV won 3-1, but the second one, we definitely went to that game 5. And, it was a very good game. ZR didn't look like they were in control most of the game. So, about halfway through, I kind of figured, ZR has this, and OPG made a last couple minute push, but it didn't pan out. But a shout out to C Raptor. He did a great job commentating that in Zoop, and they, did a good job. And I know Zoop was there for all those games, so he, voice is probably a little tired, but it was good. It was a great show, and I'm happy that those teams were representing NA, and they put on a great show for the audience. And I look forward to seeing what happens in the future with the next one.
Well, speaking of the next one, I guess, Radar, what are your thoughts about the finals broadcast itself? I guess, what were you happy with? What would you like to see improved next time? And I guess, were there any ideas that occurred to you either before or during the broadcast that you would like to try next time, presuming there's going to be a next time?
Well, I mean, it's kind of been a long road, so I'm still kind of absorbing and, reliving through kind of what transpired and how things went down. This was 2 months in the making. I did a ton of work on this, and it was a fraction of what folks like C-Raptor and Voss and Kami and those other guys did to make this happen. So huge thanks to those guys for doing a ton of the legwork and helping bring this together. Overall, we definitely, no one will argue we had some technical hiccups early on. We had some growing pains with our new space and some of our equipment set up. But now that we've got those resolved, I think the finals were great. I was very entertained to watch. I think, Tragic handled all that great. I think the commentating was great. I was overall very pleased. And, for those of you who know me, know that's not an easy thing for me to do. I don't normally get super pleased, but I think this went really well. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we have in the future for it.
I guess, how many people did you guys have watching at any given time for the third place match in the finals?
I think I want to say we peaked out somewhere around 740. This wasn't an enormous broadcast, but we also, we didn't blow this out of the water with advertising and things like that. We wanted to see how this worked. This is our first shot at this. This is the first time we brought people into the studio. Again, into our new space, our new equipment setup, and we just want to see how it went down. We had a lot of support. We had a support from our friends over in the EU office, who provided us a lot of their expertise and some promotion, through them. And I think it went well.
It was definitely well done. I caught most of the finals broadcast, and I think you guys had kind of resolved some of your technical issues by then. And it was really well done. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed listening to Zoop and C-Raptor. I thought they had some great analysis. I thought the camera work was pretty well done as well. So yeah, I mean, kudos to you guys. I think it was a great event, and it was really cool to see the amount of support that you guys were giving to the KOTS Supremacy Finals. Yeah,
we're just really grateful for all the work these guys did. I mean, they're total volunteers. They spent, like I said, I feel like I put in a pretty good amount on this. It's a fraction of the work these guys did. They did so much of the heavy lifting, and it's great to have people in the community that are willing to, to put forth that much effort to bring together an event like this.
So one of the things that stood out to me, Kami, is that we got a chance to sit down with you, me, Zoop, and C-Raptor, and we actually talked a little bit about how competitive has been evolving a little bit on the NA server, and how some of the older teams are kind of moving into more of an administrative role, and that you see quite a bit of new blood coming into the competitive scene on NA.
Yeah, and I think that'll continue as some of the, like you said, older, more established teams decide to take a break, or some of their players may leave and go to other clans, but I think that'll continue. I think it's just, the schedule, for competitive is pretty heavy for those people. And I can understand some of them wanting to take a break and not play as much. But I still think the teams that are established are currently, competing pretty well will continue. And I hope to see it, because, I mean, we had a really good turnout for this tournament. And, again, like Radar said, a shout out to Vass. He does a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes that, not even that I do. He does so much more than everybody, and I'm glad to see that his baby, which was Supremacy League, has evolved to what it is now and has gotten to be, as exciting as it is now. But yeah, I think, like you said, Kaloran, I think some of the people will continue to be, less interested in competitive and maybe just play for fun and move to the administrative side. I know a couple other people that, want to move to that side that have been competitive players for a long time. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some people do that, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see more teams. I mean, the the excitement for this will only increase the teams that want to play the next time or want to play in clan battles or want to do something competitive. And it's only good for the game.
No doubt. And I think that the amount of support that Wargaming is kind of providing to the King of the Sea in all the regions, it has really been phenomenal. And it promises only to get bigger, to talking to Conway and Radar, right? Radar?
I mean, we all, every one of our offices loves this initiative. We love the fact that anytime you, as a community manager, you can, provide a back end for, an event or a series or something that the community wants to do that really helps promote the game and helps promote fun play in the game. Even competitive play is, one of the best case scenarios. You always want to support that. So we're always excited to see, people come together and doing this, and we want to support it the best way we can. I was very pleased. This was the first time I got to do this. I was barely able to kind of get involved in the last one. So I had no real understanding of what it took to make all this happen. And, I just working with this and like Conway out in the EU, working with him and talking more about, how to make this better. I think it's a great thing, and I'm looking forward to continuing it.
Well, speaking of supporting people and things like that, the CC program was announced on a global level this last week. Actually, this week, and every month, all the community contributors will have camo codes and containers to give away, which I'm actually going to be running a camo code giveaway that I'll set up later today. So be on the lookout for the link to sign up for that. It will be open until Sunday or so, and then we'll choose the winners from there. I also have some container codes to give away, but I haven't exactly figured out how I'm going to do the containers yet. But that said, we were actually given this morning 10 sample CC containers that I intend to open live right now on the podcast, so you guys can hear just what you can get from these containers. So without further ado, we'll open up the first one here. So the first container, I ended up with 50 of the Hydra camos, which is Radar. You guys have had a list of what's going to be in these containers, correct?
There is a list somewhere. I have not actually taken the time to look at it, so I will be as surprised as you are about what comes out of these. Well,
this one I got the 50, the Ouroboros camo, which is the free XP. We actually used a lot of those in the Clan Wars, didn't we, Kami, to kind of farm free XP, right?
Yeah, I'm actually, everyone knows I have a lot of flags, but the specialty flags, like the ones you're opening right now, are the ones that I'm actually quite low on because we have gone through a lot of them.
For sure. So this time I got 50 of the subscriber camouflages. I actually posted a picture of Massachusetts in the subscriber camouflage on the Twitter today. I really like this subscriber camo. I think it's a cool thing that is very unique for people to be able to use and is really distinctive for people to see in game.
Do you like it more than the school bus camo?
I'm not a fan of the school bus camo, Kami. I do apologize for that.
What? The school bus camo is amazing.
That got used quite a bit in the KOTS finals, did it not?
Yeah, I saw a few.
We definitely saw some people running it.
So this next container was 50 Wyvern flags, which increases your credits per battle, which I love using those on the tier 9 battleships, the Missouri and Musashi. You get quite a bit of return on investment for using those flags on those ships. And then in container number 5, we ended up with 50 more Hydra flags. So the flags and the camos, I believe, are the high chance items that you'll mostly see. Again, I got 50 more Hydra flags. Let's see. And then, 50 of the dragon flags. So this is one of the ones that I was actually talking with So Octavian about this morning, Radar. The dragon flags were not on the list, but they are that elite flag type. So it's very cool to see that these are in the list of possible flags, because they're the ones that give you 333% increased commander XP and are very useful for farming commander XP.
Those are awesome flags.
All right, hopefully we get one that has something other than flags. 50 more subscriber camos. I'm going to be pretty well set on these subscriber camos. And then 50 more Wyvern flags. And then the last container is 50 more of the dragon flags. So I guess I didn't get quite as lucky as some of the other people did, unfortunately. But it should be noted that the high chance items, of which I got, all the crates that I opened had high chance items, are the subscriber camos and any of the naval elite flags, so Red Dragon, Wyvern, Ouroboros, and Hydra. The medium chance item is 100,000 free XP, and then you have a low chance of getting any of the tier 8 premium ships, which are Atago, Kutuzov, Eugen, Loyang, Kidd, Tirpitz, Alabama, Key, Gascon, and Roma. So those crates are pretty enticing for people. Radar, what were your thoughts on them giving out such good crates as rewards for the community contributors to hand out and hand out every single month?
I mean, we've, as for those of you who have been involved in the community contributor program for a while, you know that we've been revamping it. The folks, Sub Octavian and his team have been putting a lot of work to create a whole different relationship and a whole different set of goals and mechanisms to help support, contributors like yourself. And, I'm excited to see this happen. I seem to be excited about a lot of things today, but the program itself, I'm very glad to see that we're finally have this out there. We have crates for you guys to give away. It's, contributors are so important to us. The content that is created is something that it helps promote the game. It helps us, it helps us watch how you guys, interact with other members of the community. So these crates are just a way to, further support you guys and your audiences by providing you something to give them, basically.
So just so you guys know, each community contributor has 35 of the camo codes to give away. Each of the camo codes has 10 of the subscriber camos in it. And you are allowed to redeem 3 of the camo codes per batch of monthly codes. So if you can get one from me, one from Kami, and maybe one from like iChase or something like that. We also get 12 of the container codes per month. But you can only do one container per month from any source. So it gives you a pretty good opportunity to win this stuff. We will be different contributors are giving these away in different ways. I know No Zoop is actually running a bounty event so that if you kill Zoop in game and you say send him a message with a certain phrase, that you will get a container code for doing that. I'll be doing the drawing giveaway for as many people as we can for the camo codes. So I think there's going to be a lot of cool ways that people are going to be able to give these out, and we're going to get them on a monthly basis. So Vanessa, I guess we haven't heard from you yet. What are your thoughts on this community contributor program and these cool giveaway things that we're going to be getting every month?
Oh, it's pretty nice. I think it's a great idea to, maybe get a little more listener or watcher participation. And, who doesn't like free gifts and stuff? So, added bonus to, kind of watching or listening to us and supporting us.
For sure. And if you are interested in becoming a community contributor, there are a list of requirements and an application process to go through on the web portal. And I guess, how is that going to work for people, Radar? And is there an additional step that is kind of on your end about how you guys are going to decide who gets into the program?
We did put up the article on the web portal that you guys can check out. It will kind of break down what we're looking for, what the requirements are for the program, and it links to a forum thread. What you can do is you apply on that forum thread, and you go on a list of people that folks like myself and BTED, a couple of the people are starting to go through. And yeah, there is a whole, if you're a live streamer, we watch some of your streams. If you make YouTube videos, we watch some of your videos. We look at, some of your comments, how you post on Reddit, things like that, because we want to know who you are. We want to know what you're interested in, how you would fit in with the program. And once we get a list of people that we think will fit in great, we're going to reach out to them.
Awesome. Well, I think it's important that the community contributor program continues to be able to have fresh blood in it from time to time. I mean, we're obviously going to be losing Kami as a community contributor to a job. And, there are going to be other people, I think, that are going to float in and out of the program as time goes on.
We'll be losing both Kami and Femninley. So we are definitely looking to fill a couple of seats pretty soon.
Oh, I didn't realize that Fem's announcement had been made already. So could you give our listeners a little bit of thought about Fem? Because she's going to be working directly for you, correct, Radar?
That's correct. She made her announcement during her charity stream, I believe on Tuesday. She will be joining the community team as a community coordinator. She'll be doing a lot of our live streaming and a few other community-oriented tasks.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure she'll work well with Tragic Loss, who you guys already have on board.
Absolutely. No, we're very excited to bring her on board. Our team is great at a lot of things, and I think she's going to bring on some skill sets that we can definitely up our game on.
Excellent. So this week we've been playing with the new premium USN destroyer Monahan at tier 6. She still has her 2-gun layout with the Benson torpedoes, but was granted a special torpedo reload booster similar to that of the IJN destroyers to give her a bit better punch at tier 6. Vanessa, what have your thoughts been on Monahan and her new setup, and how does she fit in as a destroyer at tier 6?
Well, I think this destroyer is highly specialized, and I mean, I know that's kind of obvious, but the fact that you have 2 guns definitely limits your options when you get into a knife fight. And it's really weird because you are a USN destroyer and you're kind of used to, getting in there and, getting with your guns and having fun. This takes a lot more planning, a lot of thinking to use the ship. And if you are really good with torpedoes, if you like that, kind of observe, watch, and see type of gameplay and, plotting your torpedo spreads, as well as, just being a super annoyance when there are carriers there, because you can be absolutely Johnny on the spot with your AA ability. And it's kind of funny to wreck those planes from time to time. So it's highly specialized, highly, you gotta think very tactically in this ship. And it's not your, run of the mill USN destroyer like all the other USN destroyers where you can just really go in there and go guns blazing or, maybe set up your torpedo attacks. This one, you definitely have to think about what you're doing.
Kami, Radar, have you guys played around with Monahan at all? And what are your thoughts on having kind of a specialized destroyer at tier 6?
I mean, I've had a chance to play around with it quite a bit on test, and Vanessa makes a great point. This ain't your daddy's USN destroyer. I mean, this is very much a different animal. I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, yeah, I will because who I am. I might compare it a little bit to the Asashio, and I know people are going to hate me saying that, but I mean, it's you have to think. Like, it has a very specific role, and you're going to have to make sure that you stay in that role. And if you step too far outside of your lane, it's probably going to be a little bit punishing for you.
Kami, how about you?
What's a destroyer? I don't play those things now. It's very interesting because, like Vanessa said, USN destroyers are known to just go in, pew around, and win gunfights. But with this ship, if you get into a gunfight, and I'll tell you, if you get into a gunfight with an IGN DD and they're smart enough to shoot you back, you may lose that gunfight. But what I'll tell you with this boat is it's definitely a torp boat before it's a gun boat. I mean, if you have to use your guns, use them. But I would definitely recommend this boat kind of plays more of the IJN style in this game than it does the USN. And, it's a ship that's going to take a lot of skill to use correctly, because if you get yourself into a spot where you have to fight your way out with your guns, you will probably lose. You don't have enough guns. But on top of the other thing is you have really good torps for your tier. So if you can use your, low detectability and, your decent range on your torpedoes, you become a real nightmare for enemy ships, especially at that tier where a lot of ships aren't used to longer range torpedoes that this ship has. So, just learn to play this ship correctly and you'll have a lot of success. But I would just caution you not to just charge in there willy-nilly and start shooting your guns because, you'll probably die.
And I think that Radar's point is actually a pretty good one about it being like Asashio. I don't think that it's going to be as difficult to play as Asashio is, or as limited as Asashio is, but I also don't think it's quite as unbalancing as some people believe Asashio to be. So I think it's an interesting spot and an interesting niche. And I think it's not, tier 6 is not one that we really think about premium destroyers at for all that much. So it's an interesting spot for it to be in. We also had quite a bit of test ships that we were given last week, and a lot of us didn't have a chance to play them very much. So I get, and Vanessa wasn't even on the show last week. So Kami, Vanessa, Radar, what have your impressions been on the test ships that we were given, specifically Kronstadt, Stalingrad, Massachusetts, and the USN cruisers?
I mean, I think it's a lot. I mean, this is since I've started, this is probably the most ships that we've asked you guys to test, at least, coming out in the near future. And I've been very excited to see a lot of the feedback. I'm very excited to see the Massachusetts out there again being tested. That's, I know, a very highly requested ship from the community, and we're pretty excited to get it back out there. I have played with that. I have unfortunately not had much time to play with the Stalingrad or the Kronstadt, so I don't know too much about those yet.
Vanessa, how about you? You didn't get a chance to partake in our discussion last week regarding these ships.
Well, the Stalingrad, it does really well at punishing broadside ships, and it's kind of interesting because it's definitely it's like a battle. I mean, really, I feel that's how, if battlecruiser lines ever exist in the game, that is how I imagine them to be, especially at tier 10, because the ship very much is a hybrid of battleships and cruisers, and it feels solid. It's able to definitely punch well, but you can take a hit and you don't necessarily, have that squeamish feeling when you're in a cruiser and a battleship points at you at tier 10. It felt, pretty fun to try. The AP only is what it is, but it's nice to kind of trade blow by blows with some of the bigger ships in that, but still quote unquote technically be a cruiser. I did not try Kronstadt with the changes yet. I mainly focused on Stalingrad when I was testing. The Massachusetts, that ship needs help. The secondary batteries, that while it's a great idea, I know from what the alpha testers talked about a long time ago, USN battleships used to have pretty nasty secondaries with them. Even tested with being able to, in long iterations ago, being able to use those secondaries, and they were pretty nasty. And so I know Wargaming really toned them down a long time ago. Now, we have, in essence, a really solid ability with this ship to put out secondary fire at pretty amazing range for a tier 8. But the arcs of that make it pretty difficult to use with the ship's armor scheme and bounce angle. And not to mention that you also have issues with the stupid repair. It's such a long cooldown to be able to use your repair parties. So when you are getting in there to brawl and people are just constantly lighting you on fire, you're just burning down to the waterline. And so the ship just really feels out of place. And plus the fact that, most USN players don't necessarily go a full on secondary build, or even if you have like AFT, you maybe are not taking manual fire secondary. So it's interesting to try and set up a captain for that style of ship. I don't know. It just feels odd. And I don't feel it jives well like the German battleships do. With the USN cruisers, I've been testing quite a bit. And obviously I've been testing Seattle. I got to, support my home here. Go Hawks, by the way, I got to say, just to add in there. And, it's funny because Seattle has 4 turrets by 3 guns, which add up to 12. Yeah, 12s, Go Hawks. Sorry, I just got to throw that in there again. The ship it's interesting. It feels like the difference between Fletcher and Goering, or Old Baltimore and Des Moines. And Worcester is an amazing ship. It feels like the ultimate Swiss utility knife, as Business 6 was putting it the other day. had some great matches with them in that ship, and I feel it's the ultimate support ship. Seattle, I wish I could make work as well, but I do like the fact that the higher tier USN light cruisers, when you max out their concealment and someone detects you, you are within radar range of whatever it is that is detecting you. So you can just flip on the radar and start to have fun there. Now, as a destroyer player, it's going to be really annoying to come across a USN light cruiser on accident and then go, oh, well, the radar is coming, and now I'm going to have to go completely defensive. So gameplay is, for many different players, it's going to change when these cruisers do go out into the wild and start participating in the matches. I haven't put many more matches in Buffalo. Was Buffalo changed? I don't feel like it was changed.
It was not changed. It was they just have all of the cruisers available for us to test right now.
Okay, so Buffalo and Baltimore, I still feel the way I did earlier when we started testing those first. So yeah, I mean, the USN light cruisers, I think it's going to take some adjustment for players, especially who are used to Cleveland and the changes that are coming to Cleveland. I think some people will take to them. Other people might be put off by them, but adjustments definitely will be needed. And I think there are going to be definitely groups of players out there that are really going to take to these ships and enjoy them, especially when you get to Worcester at the end. That ship is a very unique animal. And if you're like me and kind of play more for the W and the win than necessarily trying to farm amazing damage or, throw up huge numbers, this ship is the ultimate team support ship. If you are playing with div mates, just the amount of support that you bring is just incredible. And I think for people who like to play a support role are really going to love these ships.
Kami, you didn't get a chance to play all of the different ships that we talked about last week. Now that you have a few more games under your belt, what are your impressions about what we talked about last week? And just in terms of, especially, I guess, Stalingrad is one that we kind of argued about a little bit on the podcast last week about whether or not it would be a useful addition in competitive mode.
Well, I'll tell you, I still am not a big fan of Kronstadt. It's better, but I'm still not a big fan of that boat. But Stalingrad, it is hilarious to shoot at USN battleships 19 kilometers and citadel them when they're broadside sailing along. I'll say that. But the Stalingrad's interesting, and I say that because being AP only and being the size of the guns it has, cruisers, if they are paying attention and they angle to you, you will literally do next to nothing to cruisers. And with that long a reload, shooting a bow on cruiser and you're not getting very much damage out of it is a hard pill to swallow. And when you start thinking about it, you can't really do anything to help your team. You asked about competitive. You can't help your team whittle down ships with fires, right? Because you can't do it. So I will tell you the Stalingrad is definitely a ship that is great at punishing unaware opponents. But I think in a competitive setting, unless you can get it to a side and a flank, you're going to have a tough time dishing out damage. It can tank a lot of damage because it has a high HP pool and good heal and everything. But I would say it's going to be a ship that has to be played correctly and get to a flank. And with its high detectability, it's going to be tough to get there safely. But if you do get into a position where you get good shots, it's definitely going to be a ship that you'll have to pay attention to. And you won't be able to angle to the Stalingrad and angle to a battleship at the same time. So there's that to think about. But with the other ships, the Massachusetts feels like Frankenstein's monster right now. You don't. I laugh kind of at people that make USN secondary build USN battleships just because USN secondaries have never been known to be strong in this game from when I've played, and they have an extremely long reload. They don't really do anything, and the angles that you have to be at to get them to fire, like Vanessa said, is you got to be almost pure broadside to get all 5 of them on the side to fire, and they just don't do enough damage for you to give up the amount of, HP you're probably gonna have to give up to get them to fire. The range is nice. I mean, I think with flag and everything, it's 11.3 kilometers, which is funny, but it doesn't have that same feel. When you get under the secondaries of a German battleship, you're like, man, will this guy just leave me alone and stop shelling me? But with the USN, because of the slow rate of fire, you're like, that guy's shooting at me with secondaries. Plus, you have to give up a good amount of Sigma for the main guns. I mean, it's a 1.7, so it's nothing awesome. And the damage control party, yes, it's active for 30 seconds, but the reload time is 2 minutes. I mean, that is, I would give up 3 kilometers in secondary range to have that cut in half or something like that, because 2 minutes, especially when you want to ball, kind of feels counterintuitive to me, because you're going to be set on fire a lot, like Vanessa said, and if you 2 minutes in, you get triple fire, you got to repair it, and then right after the 30 seconds is done, you get lit on another triple fire, you're probably dead. So like I said, it's kind of like Frankenstein's monster. I'm sure it'll get refined, and I know it's trying to be different than the Alabama, right? Because we already have the Alabama's in, so it's trying to do something different. So hopefully the kinks get worked out. I will tell you about the USN light cruiser line. I love the Worcester. Seattle was kind of interesting to me because the front turret arcs are terrible. They are bad. It kind of reminds me of like the Kurfürst turret angles. But the utility on that ship's awesome. The detectability on that ship's awesome. I mean, it's a good, solid tier 9. The Helena, if anybody remembers the old Mogami, Kalorn, you probably remember the old Mogami at tier 7.
Absolutely. And I was playing the Helena last night, and I love that ship.
The terror of tier 8. Get it correct.
This ship is a ship that is excellent for its tier and will be very annoying for battleship players because of the way the Citadel is laid out. You will get pin damage on this ship, but good luck to, devastatingly striking this ship, because it's going to be tough to do. Now, you will have to play. I'm not saying you can sail around in the open and just, eat battleship shells, but I will say that this ship is an awesome ship. I believe we also received the Boise. And Kalorn, I don't know if we've covered the uniqueness about the Boise's radar.
We really haven't. So if you want to take a minute and talk about Boise, I just didn't feel like we had a good amount of time to test it last week. Well,
correct me if I'm wrong, but it has a long range radar.
9.9.
Which for a tier 7 is pretty interesting. I believe the range on it is also 13.6, so it's a kilometer less than the Helena. But it's another one of those ships that I found to be very comfortable with the role that it's in. I find it to be, like Vanessa likes to talk about, a ship that's good at hunting destroyers. And I typically don't like to put ships in the boxes, but this is definitely a ship that I can see if you're one of those people that likes to get down and dirty, likes to follow the DDs in. This is one of those ships that a DD, especially at that tier, say you run into like a Mahan, poor guy. I mean, by the time he turns around and runs away, I mean, he may not get to run away because of the rate of fire. But I would say the Boise definitely is a ship that is going to find a spot, and it's going to draw, I think, a lot of comparisons to the Atlanta. Tier 7. It's going to be interesting.
Something to add there with the Boise. Its AA profile in suite is a little different than Helena's and some of the other, contemporary or other USN cruiser tier ships in and around that tier. So the AA is a lot less and much shorter range than some of the other cruisers there. So that's one of the things that I noticed with Boise. Testing it is I had quite a few games with carriers, and I had to rethink how I did my anti-air capabilities because it was much, much shorter, even taking the AA module with that. And I believe I had AFT on that captain too. And I still think I was only maxing out to 6 kilometers. So it was very much different than Helena. Helena felt amazing and is a great ship. A lot of fun. Those who remember the old school Terror of Tier 8, that was Mogami, you're going to really like Helena. And I'm looking forward to, seeing this ship out in the wild, seeing Boise also out there, and it's got the 9.9 kilometer radar range. I also believe that Indianapolis's radar was buffed to 9.9. I could be wrong on that, but I think that was also buffed. So you've got multiple USN cruisers at Tier 7, both of the light and heavy variant. And so any fan of USN cruisers has a lot of options at Tier 7 that they're soon going to be able to see and play.
And who would have thought the light cruiser is more survivable than the heavy cruiser? Oops.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. I've taken a lot of damage at Helena, particularly bow on, that I usually don't take in Indianapolis. But that said, patch 0.7.5 is coming very soon in the next week or two, and the PTS already has the new patch available for testing. This includes the new USN cruisers, as well as the new USN campaign and collections featuring Admiral Bull Halsey. This patch has kind of long been anticipated and has quite a bit of content. So Radar, I wanted to check in with you about how you guys at Wargaming have been getting ready to introduce so much content in one patch to the community.
Yeah, you're not wrong. This is a huge patch. We know there's definitely been, I saw a little bit of negative feedback around the fact that we're splitting this up between two different updates, the cruiser update. This is a massive patch. This is affecting so many ships, adding so many different mechanics, in terms of ship changes and balance changes. So we are prepared. I believe we are releasing a dev blog a little later today to kind of explain how it's going to impact your captains and your modules and your consumables and everything else. For those of you who read the patch notes, you're up to speed on about 90% of it. But for those of you who kind of want a TLDR, there should be a dev blog a little later today, which will kind of let you know what's going to happen. But we're really interested to see what happens next week. The development team's working on this a long time, and we think at the end of the day, players are going to appreciate it.
I guess, do you guys have anything special in mind for like promotion of this new patch, Radar, or from just the NA perspective in the community?
Outside of the normal promotion efforts that we put behind this patch, not a ton. I mean, we're going to have a live stream next week, as we did in prior patches, and we'll have full social media support that we normally do, and we'll be watching the forums a little extra carefully, watching Reddit, taking feedback, making sure the team gets that initial gut check of when the content comes out. But no, we'll be there.
Excellent. So the dev blog that you actually mentioned just a minute ago was very active this week and held a couple of surprises for me. First off, we have some new Tier 10 modules for many of the Tier 10 ships. Namely, the rudder shift for Hindenburg, the module is getting set to 20%. The Henry IV has rudder shift penalty removed and the penalty to concealment increased to 10%. And the Minotaur has the smoke upgrade module moved to the 5th slot, and the smoke module itself buffed some. Yu Yang is actually getting the same module slot moved to the 5th slot and the module buffed, but has a radar penalty added, which I found a little interesting because you can't have both the radar and the smoke on Yu Yang at the same time. So I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work. And then Worcester has had her concealment bonus removed. Now, I've actually had a hard time deciphering what the devs are trying to tell us here, and I don't know if there's a translation issue or if they're just having a hard time with this particular upgrade modules. But I think it's interesting that they're trying to tweak the balance of Tier 10 ships. Now, Radar, did you have any further clarification information on these upgrades, or are you guys still trying to figure out what's going on with this as well?
I mean, for the most part, this stuff still is we're still doing a lot of testing. So this is all still very early on. And, we're obviously taking a lot of feedback. I know that your feedback, I've seen what you just said a few more times in different places. I don't have any particular further insight into the general direction they're going with this. The team makes balance changes where they feel they need to ensure that, the overall game remains healthy. And this is just all part of the process. In the past, we made changes and community has pointed out they weren't the best changes and we've walked them back. The team's not afraid to do that. We're just putting these out there. That's why we have the dev blog. We want feedback. We want to see how people will react to it.
I guess, Kami, without a clear indication of what these changes are going to be, what are your thoughts more in general about tweaking the ships? Particularly, it looks like a lot of these are cruisers at Tier 10.
Well, I think it's good. I think it's good to keep the game fresh, and I think it's good to maybe give more unique build paths on modules. I know one of the things that I've always been wondering is when is the next, captain skill, redoing happening. But these modules are going to have to make you think a little bit, because you're going to have to give up something to get something. The ones that I find to be the most interesting, I really find the Midway one to be interesting, because I feel like it's another kind of nerf in a sense to the Midway. I mean, they get more HP, but they get slower planes. So to me, that feels like you're going to be able to get your strike off because you have higher HP, but your planes are not going to live because they'll just get chased down. But these modules are all for individual ships, is what I find to be the cool thing of Khorne. I think is like, each ship is getting their own type of module, and it's going to be interesting to see how they play and see if people like I guess they are kind of specialized per ship. See if people like those, or do they like just the generic, modules they've been using. I know one module that you will be very happy with is, if I've read it correctly, the Yamato module, if it stays the way it is something that is going to be absolutely hilarious.
I just found the post you're talking about, so I think that this was a misunderstanding on my part. I actually was looking at the one that they were tweaking some of the bonuses for these modules and not the actual correct one. So you're right. These are actually really interesting, Kami, and that Yamato one is crazy.
Yeah, it already has really, really good Sigma and dispersion. And just think about what that module for you Yamato players that just sit there anyway. Not like you need to turn your turrets or anything, but just a hint if you're playing that ship. But yeah, I do like that they're specialized per ship. So it's going to make you think, right? What do you want to do for that battle, or how do you want to build your ship? So I do like that aspect of them. And I hope they get tweaked to the point that, they're balanced for all the ships and people are happy with them when they come out.
Vanessa, what are your thoughts about these modules and being able to provide like a different way of playing these ships? And it looks like one of these things, as a lot of these are in the slot 5 and slot 6 area. So slot 6 is the current, for those that don't know, the slot 6 is the one that you get for tier 9 and tier 10 ships. It generally allows you to do things like decrease the reload speed. For Yamato, you can decrease the reload speed, increase the reload speed at a penalty to the traverse speed, or you can have higher AA or higher secondary DPS, things like that. Or for the destroyers, they have a torpedo tube slot. Now, some of these have a slot 5 module, which that's usually the people use the detectability module. So that one, you have a choice in slot 5 of detectability, the second rudder shift module, or the guaranteed detection module. So this is actually providing a lot of interesting options for a lot of the destroyers here, Vanessa.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it more closely. I was looking at the same thing you were with all the changes to it. And it is interesting to see that they're going with more of a custom tailored approach to each ship with that. And I feel like they're using it as a fine tuning to balance, many of these tier 10s. Maybe they see something in the statistics that they feel, maybe if we tweak just this one little thing, that might help it fall in line. And we're starting to see, the results and statistics and work, if you will, from all of the tier 10 competitive scenes and matches that we've been having. So I'm sure Wargaming is collecting all that information that we've had over this period of time, and really looking at, well, how does the ships fare in both, a random PvP setting and a competitive PvP setting. And maybe these are those small little tweaks needed to, maybe make it more balanced or interesting, or, maybe take some of the other ships that maybe don't have as much presence in the PvP or competitive sense, and maybe boost their appeal a little more to make them a little more well-rounded and want to bring them in some of these settings.
One of the couple of these that really kind of stand out to me is that a lot of the newer ships are not getting as what you might consider kind of a big a buff from these unique modules. So it looks to me like they're using this as a way to try and like flatten out the power creep curve of adding new ships. But a couple of these are really interesting. The Minotaur one gives you the bonus to smoke duration and emission time, but it also gives the Minotaur a minus 10% to the maximum dispersion of enemy shells that fire on your ship. Now, that sounds like it's a penalty that it's going to be easier to hit Minotaur. And, we already have people that shoot at Minotaur in smoke quite a bit. That's going to make it even easier to hit a Minotaur in smoke. You're getting a pretty big smoke buff, but is that going to be worth it to take? Then you've got Des Moines, which is also interesting to me. Particularly the improve to acceleration, because you see so many Des Moines that are kind of sitting still. But is a 10% nerf to your radar, worth it to take? Now, Des Moines does have a 56-second radar if you equip it properly, so maybe it is. I don't know, but I guess radar. What are your thoughts about kind of the idea of power creep, and is this a way that you would choose personally to try and address something like that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'll be really honest. I am not a game developer. I am not a designer. I probably know enough about game design to be an apprentice at best. So I kind of leave that heavy lifting to the folks that do it. From my perspective personally, power creep, I think, is something you have to be careful of. I think it's something that people recognize very easily, but they do it. It's done over time, and typically it's only recognized by your veterans. You have newer players come in, or people who haven't played as long. They come in and they see things are fine. They don't understand because they don't have context of what happened, 6 months, a year ago, where things used to be. So I think it's something the team is absolutely cognizant of. I know there are folks that I can tell you guys for a fact there are just all kinds of just insane amounts of data and things that they track, how each ship performs, how many percentages, wins this particular ship type it has, what consumables it was using at the time. So all this is tracked, all this is compiled in reports, and folks who interpret the stuff and analyze it are constantly making the design decisions that, that we need to make in order to keep the game relevant and fun and, balanced as possible for everyone.
Fair enough. Kami, I guess, what are your thoughts about it as a player who's soon to join the publishing team? What do you think about addressing power creep in this way, or would you have rather seen them have a balanced pass across all of the ships individually?
I think it's fine the way it's going. I don't think you can put all the ships under the same umbrella, right? I think they have to be their own thing. And I kind of like it the way they're doing it now. I just hope that, I'm not a developer either. So, they get all the, that stuff. And I hope that they just make it so that one ship module isn't like, oh man, that's a must. And the other ones are kind of just thrown aside. And I kind of feel like that way with the captain skills, Corn. Some of the captain skills, everyone just kind of ignores. And I hope that doesn't happen to these modules. And I hope that, people find new and innovative ways to use them, and different in conjunction with the captain skills, maybe be able to make certain builds work that maybe they were lacking just something to make them work. And I hope that's what comes out of all of this. And to address your thing about power creep, I mean, Radar said it best: you got to be careful with it. And I feel like some of us that have been playing since closed beta, or even before that, for some people, have seen power creep happen a little bit, and have seen some of the older ships maybe fall by the wayside. And we just got to be careful that, that those ships don't get too far left behind, and maybe get an update at some point in the future, and see it continue to help the game grow.
So the next topic we have is actually, again, from the dev blog, and it's a teaser for 4 new game modes. And these game modes are quite different than what we're used to seeing already. The first mode has control areas that looks like they give out buffs for those who control them. like repairs for allied ships and damaged enemy ships. The second mode seems a bit like the PUBG mode is what I kind of think of, which has like a safe area that gets smaller as the game progresses. This is actually one that we tried a version of at the CC Summit, and I actually thought it was a huge amount of fun and really forced people into a smaller area and made for some intense battles. The third mode is a fort assault, where, if I understand it correctly, you have to stay near explosive ships that only move forward when an allied ship is near, and when they get close to the fort, they detonate. The fourth mode is kind of like domination, but instead of the caps being active from the beginning of the match, they don't activate for several minutes. So you can't get early caps and things like that, which I actually think might be an interesting option for ranked battles. So I guess I'm encouraged by the idea of additional game modes, though I think each of these modes will need quite a bit of tweaking and testing as they go through, and some of them may or may not be viable in the end. But I guess, what have you guys' thoughts been about these potential random battle modes?
Well, I think it will be fine as long as we don't get, silly things like the forts that we had before. And I know that was a lot of salt inducing, with it. Every time I think about it, I think to that funny video that Euro did, was Zhao fighting a fort there, and just the craziness that kind of illustrated with that. So as long as it's these modes are done right, I think there's definite potential there. And to each their own. People like to see different things. I hate standard battle with like a red hot fury of 1,000 burning suns, but there's people out there that love standard battle. So, it's going to be interesting to see these new game mode types. Hopefully they are done out well, thought out well, and the community really takes to them and, at least are enjoyable.
Radar, we actually got to see a demonstration of one of these modes in St. Petersburg. What did you think then? And I know there was a lot of talk about weren't sure if this was actually going to get implemented. So the fact that this actually showed up on the dev blog was really interesting to me. Did you think then that it was a viable mode for warships, or what were your thoughts when you saw it there?
I mean, obviously what we saw was a very early iteration, a lot of prototyping. Personally, I think game modes are very important for online games. I've spent the last 10 years working on online games. I can tell you that modes are what helps keep content fresh. It gives players something to do. It needs to be implemented in an optional way. Space battles is a great example. Some people did not want to do space battles, and they didn't. Some of you loved space battles and you played it for a while and it was enjoyable. And it wasn't perfect. There were some things you guys brought up that I'm sure will get tweaked in the future. But modes like these will help provide, break up the standard, okay, I'm playing ranked, now I'm playing standard. Now I'm playing co-op. It may get some people out of co-op, it may get them into a special mode where things are a little bit different. Changes strategies, lets people play ships in different ways. I think there's a lot of potential. Obviously, this is very early on. We're going to get a ton of feedback before these go live. And even when they go live, they will be available probably much like space battles for a limited time. So if players, don't respond well to them, okay, that was something we tried and it worked or it didn't. If it worked, let's make it better. If it didn't, okay, let's see if we can fix it or go in a different direction.
Kami, I know that we had quite a few beefs, let's say, with the fort mode that we had for a while, but I always liked the idea that there was variety in the game. What do you think are some of the pitfalls of the things that were described here? And in particular, what do you think of the idea of what I'm calling the PUBG mode that brings people together with a safe zone?
A fort mode? Are you talking about Bastion?
Bastion, fort. No. Thank you for reminding me.
Everyone loved Bastion, right? These modes I think are going to be cool as long as they're done in a limited fashion. I think I'm not one really for, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but I'm really just not one for modes that require a lot of other things to happen. Like you said about the quote unquote PUBG mode, yeah, it's cool that it's going to bring the ships together, but I mean, I don't know about, it's tough to say because on one hand, you want to see the action happen and you want to see it close together and you want to see those brawls happen. But on the other hand, I don't really like to see people forced to go into an area maybe they're not comfortable going into at that time because the map is telling them to. You know what I'm saying? But in a limited fashion, and as long as they're done correctly and they're clearly explained on what's going to happen, I think they should be fine as limited time modes. And I'm sure a lot of people will find them fun. I know there's, like the operations that have come out. I know a lot of people that love having fun with those. So, I can see these being a cool addition to the game, as long as like I said, they're clearly explained and there's an option maybe for people that don't want to participate in them to not, and just give the people the option to do what they want to do. And I'm sure a lot of people want to delve into them, but just, got to keep the options open for people.
For sure. Well, I think that's all we had to cover this week. Kami, correct me if I'm wrong, but your last podcast with us is going to be May the 31st, correct?
It will be. That is when we'll be transitioning to my upgrade. And then the next day I will be taking that long drive out to Austin.
Yeah, it is. It's a long
Sleep on my couch, I might add.
Yeah, to sleep on Kaloran's couch. It's a big, comfy couch. So, and he has awesome dogs. Very friendly. But it'll be a long couple days. But I'll be there and be ready to go. But other than that, I will be doing a giveaway of these codes and crates and probably some other stuff just to thank my viewers because I did get partnered with Twitch, by the way.
Wow, it's huge everything's landing on you at the same time, Kami.
Yeah, it actually happened Saturday. I got the email Saturday while I was casting the King of the Sea. So it's been an interesting last few days. And it's only going to get better, but I will be doing a giveaway. I don't have a date yet. Just stay updated on Twitter, and I always put things like that on the Discord and everything like that. But it's kind of a thank you to everyone that's been there, since day one, and really I have to thank them for the viewership because I think I would be remiss to say that they didn't help me, get to Wargaming. So. I have to thank them, and I'm excited for the future, and it'll be good.
No doubt. Radar, did you have any shout-outs or announcements that you needed to make here before we close it out?
No, I think we covered all the relevant stuff. King of the Sea and the update coming up next week. Just if you have a chance to play a test, give us some feedback. Teams are watching it. My team is collecting it, making sure the dev team gets it. So we're definitely interested in what everyone thinks about the new cruisers.
For sure. So guys, get that feedback in to any way that you can. Radar, one quick question before we close it out. I know that some people are starting to wonder about if there's going to be a Let's Battle tour. With the Office move, I know that you guys have been really crazy this year. Is Let's Battle something that's still on you guys' radar this year, or is that something that is kind of being maybe pushed to next year?
We're still having a lot of conversations about it, what it looks like. We during our transition, we don't currently have a great support system for events, so we're kind of working out a lot of kinks with that. Some of us with events experience are stepping in and just trying to fast track some of the process. And I think it's definitely in our team's desire to have, some more Let's Battle, but it's a very resource, financial investment, from the company and from our team. And it's just something we need to make sure we do right. So the answer is yes, we'd like to, but we need to do it correctly.
I mean, going to the Let's Battle on Lexington, it seemed like a all hands on deck kind of event. Everybody was there, no matter what department they were in, with something to do. So that's not a small thing to plan.
Yeah, our team is still honestly in the building stages. We like we talked about bringing Kami on, bringing Fem on. Most of the community team is fresh from customer support. Breted is new. There are a lot of brand new people. We have to get trained up, and we just, like I said, I want to make sure we do this correctly. We want to provide the same level of excitement and the same level of event support that we can for something like that.
For sure. Well, that's it for this week, folks. As always, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Warships Podcast and Twitter at Warships Podcast for updates between podcasts. If you're looking for some podcast swag, we've started up a store on Spreadshirt.com that makes podcast branded shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, mouse pads, and other cool things. The URL is shop.spreadshirt.com/Warships Podcast. If you have some ideas for shirts for us to make, please let us know, and we'll maybe see what we can do. We, of course, want to thank our amazing Patreon backers. If you're interested in supporting us, please consider becoming a backer yourself. Backers do get access to special giveaways, which I'm hoping to do one of those in the next few weeks. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.